She's half of the 5-time Grammy-nominated duo, Chloe and Halle, and one of the stars on Freeform's Grownish, singing sensation Halle Bailey.
This is exciting. I mean, could you get better? Like, can you get a better performance space? I don't think you can. This is incredible. Like, wow. That's beautiful. They're so, both Chloe and Halle are so experienced as performers because they've been doing it for over a decade. And this is something people sleep on because they're so young. But it's not appreciated just how confident and experienced this introduction is. It's unadorned. It's not hyped. She's just like, because, you know, a song has to go somewhere. You don't just immediately go into a conversation with somebody and go, ah, you know, like you have to say hello, right? And so think of a song as the same thing. You have to earn this emotional climax. And this is also being accomplished vocally. Let's talk about the technique. It's almost very speech-like. It's not almost, it's very speech-like. The larynx is in a neutral position. It's not high. And she has a lighter voice, so her neutral, even though you can hear kind of the lushness there, her neutral is very befitting of the Disney princess sound. But she also can add that high larynx, that classical singing, that is the Disney sound. She's very flexible. This is really interesting. So when you start a note, it's called an onset. When you let go of a note, it's an offset. She's bringing in less vocal closure on the offset. She's giving it a breathier end. That's a really cool way, because when you do that, automatically it's less loud. You do get a little bit of a hiss from the air leaking, but it's a great way to just gently get off the note. This is really smart. She doesn't do this when she performs with her sister. She's doing it specifically for this song, and it makes so much sense for this song. Check this out. Listen to the end of every phrase. Hear that? It's hard to hear, but that little hissy sound is air leaking. Very intentional. It's very subtle, but precise. I really, really enjoy this. Is so any song that has a phrase structure like this, where there's a lot of pauses, it's really tough to pace out, because really you have to think of a phrase as much longer than these little pauses. You have to think of the phrase in a much bigger picture. Otherwise, you don't really earn where you're going. It gets lost. You can musically meander in the performance. But she keeps it interesting by not getting too attached to each little and everything, right? She's keeping the big picture involved in this performance. She has a plan and a journey. And it's really hard. It's deceptively hard to do that in this kind of a song. Nice. Lovely. Her voice is just beautiful. Like, that just sounds good. There are some things that she's doing that we should talk about. The way that she's bringing vibrato, listen to the difference. So when you add vibrato, you're tilting your thyroid cartilage. Immediately that warms the sound, but a lot of people feel like it's really stuffy if you have it all the way through, right? It's not really idiomatic of Disney or pop. It's more like an opera thing to have vibrato throughout the entirety of your singing. But it's not an on-off switch. It's not vibrato not, tilt or not. Listen to how she's going to bring continuously more vibrato in at the ends of the phrase. Remember I said journey and how she's playing a journey? Check this out. The vibrato at the end of every phrase is incrementally increased. Little bit. Much more classical. Straight tone into the vibrato. And that offset is beautiful. Listen to how she gets off of it. She fades as the instruments come in. And you might be thinking, well, this is pre-recorded, right? Can't that be done in the mix? The reality is that when you have a good artist like Halle Bailey, you really want to capture the performance that they're getting. It is amazing how little mixing you have to do when you just capture a good performance, and that's what. Go listen to the originator of Ariel. There's actually a video on YouTube where the director is giving her direction in the recording studio, and he won't let up. Like it's they keep doing it over and over and over again. He's like, okay, play with this, do this. So these musical decisions, people are going to say that, oh, it's post-production. It's not. So far, I've only heard 2 notes where auto-tune as an effect was applied, and people are just so used to hearing it. People throw it in, even on good performances for the sound. The rest of it is beautiful, totally planned. I mean, there's wonderful phrasing, very specific and detailed. And I love on that straight tone, there's not a lot of tension. She brings the gravity wonderfully. She's getting more lush in the sound, right? We're progressing on this journey. We're getting more and more classical in the approach. More vibrato is coming in, and it makes sense. So not only we have to listen to the orchestration here. Listen to when the strings come in. That's when she's getting more lush, more classical. I love that. I love that. It's every great artist when they sing, you make choices and you get into the minutia, you get into the details. It would have been easy for her to sing all of this, the rest of this, in a super classical, straight up way. But she doesn't. She's still being very specific with the words and with her musical decisions. Listen to how she goes from this lovely legato into basically speaking the words. I also want to point out when she decides, so Halle, people sleep on her power. And I say that because her voice is generally, and her singing is generally considered like light and effervescent, but that's actually her doing. If you hear her belt, it's pretty epic. Like, she can bring volume. And the reason I point this out is watch when she goes up. On this word, perfect. Raising the larynx. She raises the larynx to keep perfect even in the phrase. Because if you go perfect harmony, right? Like if you go straight classical, that perfect is going to pop off the phrase. What she does is perfect harmony, and it keeps it smooth and consistent with the phrasing. I can't believe people say that she doesn't sound like Disney. The first time I heard her, literally go back in my VODs, the first time I heard her, I'm like, she sounds like a Disney princess, but better. That's the quote. And you can hear it right here. You don't need a degree or anything like that. You just listen to this. Come on. That's Disney right there. I love her use of consonants here. Contrast is a really important decision. Now, again, this song is difficult because it's like short phrase, short phrase, short phrase, lush, short phrase. And it keeps coming back and forth between these short phrases. So we've had this very, very kind of where she's really giving it legato. And then after she's doing the smooth legato here, she's really using the consonants to express the words. And the reason she hasn't gone full opera legato is because she's not there yet, right? It's a great song, and like most great songs, the epic part of the song is at the 2/3, that golden ratio, right? So if she had done the first chorus, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, in a big epic way, how does she get back to going into this more speech-like? And how does she do the second chorus? It would be different. And I think this is the better approach. So turn away from me. He's holding back, he's hiding. And I love this. A little bit of different plays on the vowel, right? She's not trying to be pretty all the time. She's trying to be respectful to the words. Listen to that vowel change. You can even see that teeth and kind of that snarl. That affects the sound. It's if you do ah versus ah, right? Like you don't have to always sound pretty if you're trying to pay homage to the words, right? Now that was interesting. She's actually lowering her soft palate on that. She's going with a more neutral vowel. Now, that's an interesting decision because that's actually not too high for her. This is something that's done particularly with tenors in opera. It's called covering. And the idea behind this is that as you go up, the brighter the vowel tends to make that note pop. And you don't want that if you're trying to do a really sumptuous line of music. And so she's really being careful. This is the second time she's made a technical decision to bring respect to the legato line. Right? Side instead of side, right? You see, and you can hear the difference when I do it. Another droop of the soft palate, avoiding the bright ah. That's instead of decide, that's decide, right? Side, right? And what that has allowed her to do, because that's the pre-chorus, right? If she brings out all of the drama in the pre-chorus, she can't bring the noise when it comes to the chorus. And this is the part she's been preparing for and really preparing us, the audience. She's earned the big uns. Let's check this out. And listen to how mature. I got chills, actually. Like, literally. Listen to her tone quality shift. People sleep on the fact that this is a grown woman. She looks young, and she is young, but that voice is mature. Listen to what happens when she lowers her larynx. I'll point it out. Have we gotten a low note that lush yet? The answer is no. She's lowered her larynx a little bit. And again, we're getting this epic line, this perfect legato line. That was very classical. So let's talk about these consonants, because it's actually deceptively difficult. If you have any plosive consonants, perfect harmony, right? P, b, d. Anytime you have a consonant like that, if you put too much air behind it, what happens is that the pressure builds up so that when you sing the vowel, you start a little flat. And that's just a response to too much breath. What she's doing here is not only is it consistent amount of air, but she's pulling back just a smidge on these consonants, which is very, very difficult in terms of navigating breath. If you do the whole thing pulled back so that the consonants work, then when you sing on the vowel, it's not going to sound as lush. So she is pulling back and forth, even though the breath is super consistent, the pressure, she's changing it just a smidgen. You see how gentle that P was, how gentle that T was? Yes. Yes, queen. Her belts are pristine. Listen to how clean that is. So a good belt has a couple of ingredients. Usually the larynx is high. A belt is powerful not because it has a super low anything. The larynx is generally very high. The folds are short and fat. And you need to have very, very precise breath, because if you put too much pressure behind these fat folds, it'll build up, build up, build up, bam. It can even lead to a vocal hemorrhage. So a good belt that's unstrained, if you actually take spectral analyzer to analyze the frequencies, belts are really, really hot in the upper frequencies, and you can hear it. It's difficult to hear versus when you're hearing it live, but you can hear it. You feel how that's really hot in the highs and there's not a lot of lowness to that belt? In addition to that, so when you belt, you tilt what's called the cricoid cartilage. That's what thickens the folds. You tilt that, boom. The thyroid cartilage, which we talked about earlier, gives the vibrato and the lusciousness, contrary to what the cricoid does, which gives that hot, high tone, right? That thyroid tilt gives the low lush. Look at, she's going back and forth. She's doing some vocal gymnastics. Give this girl a gold medal. Cricoid, thyroid, cricoid, thyroid. And this little bob of the larynx here, again, details, specificity. She's getting very, very into the minutia of the tune. So that people always get, people have this absurd obsession that if I ever call something falsetto, they have a conniption. By flipping, you get this dramatic effect. And the way you can flip is to, hold on, let's see. Yes. So you hear that crack there? One of the ways you can immediately, because if your folds are really thick from a low end, it's like really hard to thin them out immediately. So what you can do is you can blow them open into straight up falsetto and then readduct them. to go into like a head voice or a lighter mix. And all of these terms are kind of imperfect. I don't want to get involved with like what the vocal folds look like. But all we need to know for the most part is she was thick in her low. If she tried to keep that adduction of the folds, those thick folds, and go up, she would have choked out. Like, just wouldn't sound good, even if she could hit the note at all. So what she does here is she flips in a falsetto and immediately gives, readducts the folds more thinly. You can hear this like tiny, tiny little crack of that. You hear that? You hear this, like that little bit of that? That's the folds coming together again. Cool, right? Yes. Oh my God, yes. I'm so happy. So, again, this is a woman who has a lot of power when she wants to. What she's doing to get this more because all the princesses are supposed to be young, right? Like in their teens, and they're often a Disney princess is not exactly burly, right? Like most of them are kind of dainty and very feminine. So what she's doing, and what pretty much all people who have sung Disney do, is she's raising her larynx. And that is like basically straight up classical. That ooh vowel, actually, if you're trying to learn how to do the thyroid tilt and you're trying to learn how to do classical, the ooh vowel is really, really nice. It works better for women. And the only reason that that's true is because men have this gender pressure to sound really big and loud. But if you listen to countertenors, actually, they use this ooh vowel in the same way. Perfectly. The vibrato is consistent. The vowels change to change resonance throughout the range. This is like really hard-earned, practiced stuff. Yes, dynamic control. I mean, like, we can talk about all of this stuff that she's doing, and there's a lot. But this is just also a magnificent performance in its entirety. And it was made that way with her clearly labored effort, her hard work, her intuition, her musicianship, all going into every aspect of this tune. The phrasing is immaculate and very, very, very nuanced. And the effect of that is that I need a moment. I think that speaks for itself.